Concerns over picketing workers has forced the LCBO to cancel to reopening stores for wholesalers like bars and restaurants. At the same time, Ontario's finance minister has assured the LCBO that, quote, while some take a more short-sighted view that opposes change as a best-in-class wholesaler and retailer of alcohol, the LCBO will continue to make meaningful financial contributions to provincial coffers. This is after alcohol sales are expanded to local outlets in the fall. Here to bring us up to speed on everything related to this strike is Toronto Star Queen's Park Bureau Chief Robert Benzie. Great to have you on the show.
Hey, Anne-Marie.
So a bit of a dig there by the province to the striking workers and a reminder that, you still will be contributing, maybe not in the same way. What are the options for wholesalers with this latest move? Where will they go?
Well, this is the problem with the strike right now, Anne-Marie, is restaurants and bars are beginning to have problems getting their products. And that's the LCBO is restricting how many bottles you're allowed to buy because of supply chain problems. It's one of these strange things. The strike has been on since last Friday. It's the first strike in the history of the LCBO, almost 100 years it's been in business. But I don't think the public is yet noticing it. But that's going to happen as bars and restaurants begin to find supply problems. I mean, remember, there are 680 liquor stores that are closed, but it's the distribution warehouses that are slow to get their products out to the 20,000 restaurants and bars in Ontario that are already legally allowed to sell booze to go. So it's interesting situation for the government. I think the Tories under Premier Doug Ford believe that they have the public on their side, in the sense that this hasn't yet been felt by mom and pop folks walking down the street because they can buy wine and beer everywhere. The problem is, if those supplies begin to dwindle, then I think the pressure will mount on the government. And
it seems like they're trying to put the blame for that squarely on the striking workers by saying, sorry, it's their fault, we have to close. What role does the province envision for the LCBO once alcohol sales are expanded to local outlets in the fall? Because a reminder to everybody, this is why the workers are striking. They want that decision reversed. The province very clear that's not happening.
Yeah, I mean, the government has said, look, liberalization is coming. Ford has earmarked, he says, $225 million to pay the beer store. That's the privately owned beer monopoly here in Ontario, that to liberalize things a bit earlier. It was supposed to be the end of next year. Now it's going to be by Halloween this year. But the problem that the government has is that yes, there is a public appetite for more liberalized booze sales. I'm not sure the public wants the inconvenience of strikes. And in every town in Ontario, there is an there's an LCBO store, and those workers are kind of pillars of the community in the sense that everyone knows who they are. And I think that's something that the government hasn't really reconciled. I think they'd like eventually for the LCBO to just be the distribution network, as we see in Alberta, where a Crown-owned monopoly distributes all the booze for all the privately owned liquor stores. The government isn't saying that yet, that they say the LCBO will still have a monopoly on spirits like whiskey and rum and vodka and so on. But I think we're heading toward a market where it probably won't be an LCBO monopoly anymore, but that's a few years away, and that's why the OPSU strikers are on picket lines now.
Robert, for people watching across the country, they may not realize just how heated this strike has become in terms of rhetoric. So I wanted to play them something. Premier Doug Ford put out a video. This is the Premier promoting all the alternative ways that Ontarians can still purchase alcohol, even though the strike is on. He also provided an interactive map to help find them. Have a look.
We've created this handy new map that shows what stores are open and what they sell. Say you want to buy some local Ontario craft beer. Just zoom in on where you are, click the filter for beer, and look at all the fantastic options that pop up.
So how has the union reacted to this decision by the Premier to promote alternatives?
Well, they see it as a provocation, and opposition politicians like the Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie yesterday was saying, why don't we have an interactive map to help the 2.3 million Ontarians who don't have a family doctor find a doctor? So I think it's a consumer-friendly thing for sure, and it is popular. It's getting a lot of clicks, and I think the response to Mr. Ford's video, which also shows him flipping hamburgers and holding a craft beer, even though he doesn't eat red meat or drink alcohol, Anne-Marie, but I think the response has been pretty good to the video. But I think it does open him up to criticism about other things that aren't working particularly well in Ontario, including the lack of family doctors.
Yeah, healthcare and housing. Really quickly, you mentioned the Premier and alcohol, and I'm going to dig into your experience here at Queen's Park. His short-lived Buck a Beer campaign to lower the minimum price of a single beer to $1. And then there was the push to privatize alcohol sales. That's been a fixture on his agenda for years. Now it's going to cost the province at least $225 million to get out of the deal with the beer store early. Why does Premier Ford seem to have such a fascination with the politics of alcohol?
I think it goes back to his populism, Anne-Marie. I think he wants to be seen to be the lunch bucket guy, the person, the everyman. Even though, as I say, he doesn't drink alcohol, doesn't eat red meat, but he'll often talk about how why can't you go and buy a six-pack and a steak at the same store? Which, by the way, you already can because Premier Kathleen Wynne liberalized booze sales and allowed it in supermarkets and 450 supermarkets almost 10 years ago. So it's not. I think it's also a generational thing. I think Mr. Ford, who is turning 60 this year, comes from the generation, as I do, I guess, where you think, my God, how is Ontario so backwards that you can't buy booze everywhere? Well, of course, you already can buy booze pretty much everywhere. So, but I think there is still a nostalgia for this beer and wine in corner stores, which was a cornerstone of the 1985 Ontario election and wasn't realized then. So I think there's a bit of that from him. It's not because of his own personal taste, because, as I said, he's not a drinker.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. Well, we're going to continue to watch and see where this goes. Robert Benzie, great to have you on the show today. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne-Marie.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.